Hey everyone, welcome to Craft Zone Creation Section 3, Cubing. Today I'll be teaching you how to solve the very last layer of the 3x3 Rubik's Cube, which includes the entire yellow face and all the pieces around it. As you can see, that's the only part that hasn't been solved yet. Now, if you have yet to learn the first two layers, I'll be putting the links to my previous two videos in the description box below so that you can go and learn how to solve the first two layers of the 3x3 Rubik's Cube. Let's begin. After solving the first two layers of the 3x3 Rubik's Cube, you can end up with many different patterns on the yellow face. These are some of the most common patterns you might find, where the orange paper are the yellow blocks and all the areas that have been colored in with black are or can be any other color. So as you can see on my Rubik's Cube here, I actually have a mix of this pattern, which can be seen right here, and this pattern, which can be seen right there. So in all these cases, you have to go ahead and perform this algorithm right here, FRURIUIFI, and you will end up with what will be our next step. So you might have to do this several times because sometimes you can go from this, perform the algorithm, and end up with a straight line. So you'll have to do it repeatedly. If you have any of these patterns, make sure they are in this orientation. So if you have a straight line, make sure it goes horizontal. If you have a T, make sure it goes, in the T format. And if you have an L, make sure it's facing this way. Now, if your cube looks like this, where you don't have any yellows, except for the centerpiece, you don't have any other yellows here, then you have to look at your second layer because you might not have filled in all the edge pieces. Also, I just remembered this after I drew in the other patterns. This is also a very common pattern that you might find, which is a diagonal line of yellow straight across. Also, another thing I'd like to clarify for this part is this also means, as you might notice here, all the pieces that are present have at least one yellow side on them. They have other colors, but they also have one yellow side. By this, what I mean is you end up fighting a piece like this, where there's no yellow, which means you need to make sure that all of your edge pieces in your second layer are in the right position because you might have missed one. Now I'm going to go ahead and perform the algorithm after making sure that the yellows are in the correct positions. So in this case, the L would be right here, and these two dots would be right here. So make sure that the yellow face is on the top. When you're solving the last layer, it's always on the top unless I tell you to flip it for some reason. So the algorithm goes F R U R I U I F I. Now, as you can see, I have a T. After turning it so that it's in the T shape, I'm going to perform this algorithm again. F R U R I U I F I. Now I have the three diagonal dots. Do it again. F R U R I U I F I. Sometimes it can take many tries to get it right. As you can see, this is not one of the patterns that I've drawn here, but you can also see that there is an L shape. Sometimes there may be more yellows than some of the basic patterns here, but you will almost always find one of these patterns. So I'm going to get this to the next step. The next step is, you keep doing this until you see a yellow cross. So I'm gonna do this and be back to show you. So I had to do the algorithm 2 more times to get the yellow cross. Now having the yellow cross doesn't mean doesn't mean that you'll always have only a yellow cross. You can also have some of the other corners filled in like you see over here. So there is another algorithm that goes with this step. So as you can see, you can have any of these three possibilities. Again, the black parts can be any other color, whereas the blank parts or the orange parts are the yellow. So in this case, you have a yellow cross, and you don't have any other yellows filling in the corners. In this case, you have a yellow cross, but you have any of the two corners filled in. So in this case, I drew them diagonally, but they can also be in a straight line, as I have over here. And this is what you're aiming to get to, where you have the yellow cross and only one corner filled in with yellow. So to get to this, you need to keep performing this algorithm. You might already have this, which means you'll end up getting to the end of the solving process quicker, but you might also end up with one of these. So if you have a plain yellow cross with the cross on the top, you might have yellow pieces on the sides. So if you have a plain yellow cross, put either one or two of the yellow pieces towards your left, as in on this side, and then you would perform this algorithm. You might end up with this, or you might end up with the same, or you might end up with this. If you have this case where you have two corners filled in, like what I have here, look for pieces, yellow pieces on the sides, and bring them to the front. So with the yellow face on top, have corner pieces at the front, in front of you. And then you're going to perform this algorithm. If you have this case, just make sure that the filled in corner piece is in the left bottom corner, and then perform this algorithm. So I'm going to bring this to the front, and I'm going to perform this algorithm. R, U, R, I, U, R, U2, R, I. As you can see, now I have just one corner filled in, which is the third case. So I'm going to move this to the left corner, and now I'm going to do this algorithm again. The goal of this step is to end up with the entire yellow face completed. After putting it at the corner, I'm going to do R, U, R, I, U, R, U2, R, I. As you can see, I still have that one corner. You might have to do this several times. And now the entire face has been solved. So to summarize this step, after doing this step, which leads to a yellow cross, you might have any of these three cases. And from these two cases, you first need to get to this case. And making sure that this is in the bottom left corner, you might have to perform this algorithm several times before you get the entire yellow face completed. Moving on. Now that I have the yellow face completed, the one last thing we need to finish, well, it's going to take several steps to do it, but the last thing we need to finish is all of this area right here. So to get that done, there's something you need to look for. Something like this. Two corner pieces that have the same color on one face. So as you can see there, I have two blues right here. What I'm going to do is move these blues so that they're with the blue face. And this can go with any color on any one side and the color can't be yellow because all the yellows are on the top now. So you align these two with their respective face, and then you turn your cube around so that that is at the back, like this. And then you're going to perform this algorithm. So let's do that. RI, F, RI, B2, B is the back, remember that, B2, R, FI, RI, B2, R2, UI. Now, again, in this step, you might have several different outcomes, which I'll be going through with you. But for this step, another possibility, instead of having two matching, you might have one corner piece that fits in somewhere and a corner piece on the opposite diagonal side that fits in somewhere. So to solve that, you need the same algorithm, but in that case, what you're going to do is put one of the correctly aligning corner pieces at the back and put one in front of you, like this. And then you perform this algorithm, and it will bring you to this, it will bring you to this step, the one I just did in front of you, and then you perform this algorithm again by putting that face at the back and then, well, doing the algorithm, and then you will get to this step. Now, the last thing you will need to do while solving the cube is orienting the edge pieces correctly. There are 4 different cases that you might end up with. 2 of them involve one face being completely filled. So in this case, my red face has been completely solved, and the other 3 faces need to have their edge pieces corrected. So for cases like these, you might have 2 options. So if you take a look at your edge pieces, orange needs to go here, green needs to go here, and blue needs to go over and here. The edge pieces are basically moving in a clockwise manner. So if you have this case, you will need to perform this algorithm right here. This algorithm is going to move the pieces clockwise so that they're with the correct faces, and you'll end up with a solved cube. This can also go the other way, where the pieces need to be turned counterclockwise. Oh, and make sure the completed face is on the back when you're looking at this. So if this edge piece needed to go this way and this needed to go here, then this would be moving counterclockwise, and you would need to perform this algorithm right here. The other 2 possibilities that you might have for this very last step actually involve none of the edge pieces being in the correct position, which means I won't have any solved faces except for yellow and white, and, well, this part that we did earlier. But all the edge pieces will either need to be swapped in some way. So the way they need to be swapped, you can have 2 ways. You might need to exchange the top 2 pieces and the 2 edge pieces on the sides, which means you need to exchange the opposite pieces. In that case, you are going to use this algorithm. Now, as you can see here, M2 is a new instruction in the algorithms. We haven't used M before. M is basically this one. So if it says M2, you're moving this twice, like that. And U is just U. the other option here, or not option, what you might end up with here is where you need to swap to adjacent pieces. So let's say this needed to go over here and this needed to go over here. You need to swap these two and these two, or the other way around, but pieces that are right next to each other, those needed to be swapped. In that case, I think there's another algorithm to do this, but I just used one of the older algorithms twice. So instead of introducing a new algorithm, I'm going to tell you how to do this with one of the older algorithms. To swap two adjacent pieces, what you need to do is just pick clockwise or the counterclockwise algorithm that I showed you earlier, one of these two, and then you're going to end up with one face solved and a clockwise or counterclockwise situation. And so you just do one of these again as needed, and you'll end up with a solved cube. So in this case, what I have here, as we looked at it earlier, these edge pieces need to move clockwise. So I'm going to perform this algorithm to move the edge pieces. F2, U, RI, L, F2, LI, R, U, F2. And as you can see, the edge pieces moved and they've been corrected and the entire cube is solved. I'm going to try to get some of the other orientations and see if I can show you. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. So I tried to get other orientations, but the most I could get was the counterclockwise one, which just has slightly different algorithm than the clockwise one, which was the one I did with you. But there's really nothing to it. If you're stuck with when to do these, or if you're confused about when to perform these, you can always just do one of these, and then it's going to change it to an orientation that you can just use one of these again to solve the cube. So that was the last step when it comes to solving the 3x3 Rubik's Cube. Thanks for watching. In the next video, I'll be teaching you how to do some fun patterns. Some of them are really quick and easy, like the checkers pattern. That looks like that. And they can almost always be easily converted back to the solved cube. Like that. So I'll be going through a whole ton of patterns in my next video. And sorry this video is a bit too long, but the third layer takes the most work when it comes to the 3 layers of the Rubik's Cube. The algorithms are longer and you need to be more careful because there are 2 whole layers that you can't, that you need to be careful of not ruining while you're solving the third one. So all the moves in the third layer are mostly algorithms. You can't just put in the corner pieces like you did in the first layer, where you could move everything around and you really didn't have to be careful of anything when you were doing the first layer. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to know when my next video comes out. Comment and let me know how this video was. If the lighting was okay, and just in general, let me know what you think. And yes, that's it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.